Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Hail Yes, a Detroit Free Press podcast about University of Michigan athletics. I'm Tony Garcia, Michigan football and basketball writer for The Freet, joined by our editor and producer, Andrew Burkle. And Andrew, this time, we're also joined by another guest. Pretty cool one at that, I would say.
Yeah, man, you did a great job locking up the Michigan basketball legend. You get to some of his accolades at the start of that interview there, but a great sit down with a man who knows more about basketball than, we'd forget in a lifetime. So it's awesome stuff. Lots of good content about the modern Big Ten, the old school Big Ten, what's changed, what Michigan has that can propel them to however far they want to go this year, and Michigan State up the road too. Some thoughts on them. So great stuff from John for sure. And great job by you landing him too, for sure.
He's a good man. He's the one doing all the work. He's just doing us a favor. But yeah, you said it all. So let's get right to it. Without further ado, here's the Hall of Famer, John Beilein. As promised, the man who needs no introduction, but we will give him one anyways, Michigan basketball coaching legend, a member of more halls of fame than I can really remember offhand, but I know it's at least the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, the National College Basketball Hall of Fame, Canisius, and Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. 829 wins in 41 years, 13 NCAA tournaments, 278 of those wins, and 9 tourney appearances right here in Ann Arbor, including 2 national championship appearances in 2013 and 2018. The winningest coach in program history, Mr. John Beilein. Thank you so much for joining us from the road. Did I get that all right?
Yeah, I think you did well. I don't know a lot of those stats sometimes, but it's good to hear them. I guess we did all right at Michigan.
That you did. I mean, your name is still one of the most common that I hear on a day-to-day basis, certainly. And we're still going to get into all your ties that you still have in and around the Michigan program. And that starts with where you're headed right now, going to see a former player. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm going over. I live now in Naples, Florida in the winter. So I am going over to Miami right now to watch. Tomorrow's game is Miami and Cavaliers. So I had a Duncan Robinson against Karis LeVert, two two-star recruits against each other that are still playing, 7 or 8 years in the NBA. But Karis didn't make the trip, so I'm just going to dinner with Duncan tonight, talk about nothing but the old days, and then watch him play tomorrow. And proud as heck of him and Karis and all the guys we got in the league.
That's as good as it gets. That's as good as it gets. Sounds like Karis is working through a wrist situation right now. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a year 11 for Karis. He's still averaging almost 11 points a game, 14 for his career. And this is year 7 for Duncan, putting up 11 a game, 11.4 for his career. And to go from, I mean, everybody knows his story, right? I mean, the lowest level, the lower levels of college basketball, you took a chance on him, undrafted. And then what was that, $90 million contract or something? I hope he's taking you out for dinner. Is that how this works? Or who picked up the tab?
Oh, you know what? It's funny. Sometimes I was talking with Nick Stauskas, and I was telling him about, I'm lucky enough to live down here in Naples here and Petoskey in the summertime. So I live in 2 dream places now that I've retired. And I said, thank you very much, Nick. And Nick says, Coach, I'm looking at the house that I'm living in right now, and I'll tell you, thank you very much. So it is, we had a great run there. And I'm telling you, Tony, even the guys that have not, we got a bunch of guys in Europe. And then we got a bunch of guys that just went on to the next part of their life. Proud of them all and try and stay as close as I can to all of them. It's hard. I think I have 250 ex-players when you go all the way back to high school. So keeping touch with everybody is hard, but I try my best.
Man, and I know from the relationship that we have, I can only imagine how good of a job you do of that with all your former players. And just, you're right. I mean, even I was around the program and in the Player Development Center earlier this year, and Xavier Simpson in there still working out and stuff, And so, I mean, it's a long-term thing.
Yeah. He and Muhammad Ali are over in Romania, I think. I think it's Romania.
Yep.
And then Eli Brooks is in one of those same states, and Jordan Morgan was over in Korea playing. And like I said, it's hard to do it, but Xavier Simpson, watching him work, and he should be a backup guard in the NBA. But once you get in the NBA, and there's just all these other things going on for the backup players, that he decided just say the heck with it. I'm going to go over and play every day, and he deserves to. And I'm sure his team is winning. That dude's a winner.
Yeah, he always has been. Certainly. I could get disregard. I get there's a Xavier Simpson story for from through my family for another day. At another time, I know someone who knew him from Lima, Ohio, and he was a thorn in their side even back then, right? So just he's always been a winner. But I mean, we could reflect on obviously the days that were forever, but we also would love your take on this year's Michigan team and the direction of the program. Right now, 15-5 overall. 7-2 in the Big Ten, third place. Just had a really big finish Monday night at Chrysler Center. Down 5 with a minute and a half left, a little more than that. Trey Donaldson scores or assists on the final 9, little 9-0 run to steal one from Penn State, 76-72. So just your thoughts about that response after what happened at Mackey on Friday, which I'm sure you saw as well. And so now Michigan basically at the halfway mark of the league. So just sort of your 30,000-foot view on where they are.
Well, I think I have watching them get that one. We've had some of those before where you come out at home and, some days you just don't have it and you still got to find a way to win. I always thought those were the best wins to get when you just don't have everything going. But Penn State's pesky is very pesky and hard to play against. But I think there was some residual effect from the punch they took at Purdue. I mean, that was something, if you look at their scores, they have either been winning by a lot or have been in close games. They have not lost by a lot yet, and that happened. And that takes a lot, the wind out of your sails, and it takes a minute to get your confidence back. But I like this team a lot. I like the talent. I like the role definition. What I don't think I took it into consideration earlier is the fact that they haven't played together for a very long time. And, in the portal days, everybody sort of got to do that. But I watched a play the other day, Tony, Indiana against last second against Maryland. And they had Indiana side out of bounds. And they had to play called. They called a timeout. Then the ball got tipped to the baseline. And now they had to move on to a completely different play without a timeout. And I could just see the lack of execution in that final play because all these guys have hardly ever played together. And to me, that would have been Hardaway would have told Stauskas what to do, or somebody would have messaged on the court. All the older players would have made sure we execute there. That one there wasn't. So I think that happens now, and it's happened to Michigan at times too, where it is when things go wrong or there's some type of adversity, they don't necessarily have all the communication skills that veteran teams that have played together. They have a veteran team, one of the most veteran in the country, but they have played together for such a short time. There's going to be moments like we had yesterday with Penn State.
Right. So I was going to ask you this a little later, but you just led me into it well, because your program, when you led it, I mean, in so many ways is built on development and sustainability, right? And this sport has obviously just changed drastically with NIL, the portal, and all of that. I mean, what are the same principles that Dusty May, and I'm going to ask you more about him in a minute here, what can he use to sort of keep Michigan like year in, year out as a competitor that you were able to build on? Or would you have maybe handled things differently just given the nature of this era now?
I'm not in the locker rooms or seeing Dusty, except talk to him every now and then, really. And what I do see is if I were coaching that team right now, I would be emphasizing teaching culture, teaching teamwork, teaching what it takes to win over and over again. You used to be able to get this from osmosis over years of playing together. But right now, you have to be very intentional about teaching what winning looks like. So that's my say right now, that they got X's and O's they got to work on. And skill development. Skill development is something that we prided ourselves in doing right to the last game. So they told us we couldn't play anymore. So it's really important that they understand that too, that you're ever changing, and the only way that you can get this thing done is if you keep teaching culture and keep living it every day and keep up the skill development.
So knowing that, does it make it all the more impressive, Michigan, how quickly they were able to start this thing? I think they were like 6-0 in the Big Ten. They were 11-2 or something at one point. I mean, really sort of ripping through things. And is there almost a world in a coach's mind where it's kind of almost like, oh no, we got too good too fast, and now we might sort of be feeling ourselves?
No, I don't think so. I think what's happened is they look better than they were in some of these blowouts they had because the mid-majors are just getting crushed every day with losing guys. And if let's say we played at Toledo or we played somebody, a MAC team, they probably had guys that could step right into our lineup and play because they've been there for 3 or 4 years. I think they played a lot. They played a tough schedule. But I think some of the mid-major blowouts that they had was probably fool's gold in a way because it's just not the same mid-majors they were 10 years ago. So does that lead them to being too optimistic? Maybe. But a couple of the Arkansas loss and the Oklahoma loss, those are pretty sobering ones too because they could have won both those games. So all these things, if you use it the right way, they're going to build you to be a champion in March.
And from what I've gleaned, what I've heard, and what people inside have told me, I mean, John, this is exactly what they're saying, kind of what you're saying. This is really very similar, sort of the mentality that they're coaching through. And I don't think that personally is that much of a surprise because I know you were very instrumental in bringing Dusty May here in the first place. So I want to go back to 10 months ago when you and Ward Manuel were down in Florida, right, last March, and you are bringing Dusty to Ann Arbor. I guess what was it about him at that time that really sold you? Could you just get into sort of your relationship and maybe the people that you had known who knew him and just why it's all worked?
You're asking the question here probably for the first time because I had very little to do with Dusty coming here other than the final meetings. And what I ended up doing was I had been following him and I had a list prepared for Ward if he was going to ask. And when he did, Dusty was one of those guys. And just so happened, Dusty unfortunately got beat early and we could interview him early. And I just was sort of brought in at the end and just asked him a few questions. And goodness gracious, Tony, he nailed every one. I really expected just some trick ones at him. I did some, and he nailed every single one. And I think it had a lot to do with his fellow assistant at Florida and at Louisiana Tech was a guy named Darius Nichols, who's the head coach at Radford. Darius is my starting point guard at West Virginia. And we remained very close. So I think he knew a lot about how our culture worked and that he loved the Michigan culture and what we had established back in the day and just wanted to recreate it. I really think he knows we could win here and do it the right way and embrace that as opposed to looking at other options.
Okay. And so just because you kind of walked me into it, I mean, a lot of people have made the comparison or said to me, "Oh, it feels like we're going back to the days of John, back to the Beilein days." Now, I mean, I recognize I'm not walking you into the most comfortable question one way or the other, but I mean, can you compare and contrast your philosophies, Dusty's, I mean, similarities, differences, or anybody who says something like that? What you think when you hear that?
Yeah, I don't. I've only been to 2 practices. I've watched the teams play several games, and I think what I hope people saw in me that they see in Dusty as a guy on the sideline who's not frantic. He's standing there watching his team and very under control. I think we see that, and I hope that was the coach people saw in me. I think he sees a team that likes to get up and down the court, and they play at a higher tempo than we do. If I had ever come back coaching, I would have played at a higher tempo. After my 3 years in the NBA, I believe less plays and more tempo would have been better for us because it was getting hard for me to dial everything up. My brain was exploding in the last couple of years. So I do see that, and I do know he embraces culture. He embraces the little things that make good teams great. And that makes me very proud to be. I'm not really associated with the program. I'm associated with the University of Michigan Medicine, where I work for them. But I just follow him and try and talk to him whenever he asks any questions.
Right. There was one difference already established between the two of you this week. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet or not. Trey McKinney, the incoming 5-star combo guard out of Orchard Lake St. Mary's, was just named to the McDonald's All-American team, which reminds me of one of the more amazing facts about your tenure is that you did not have one McDonald's All-American. And I don't mean that in any way as a slight. I think that speaks volumes about the 9-10 players drafted and then getting second contracts in the NBA, the championship appearances, the Big Ten titles, all of that. So I suppose the question is, was that by design? And what do you think about Dusty being able to recruit McKinney away from a lot of top schools? And let's be frank, that includes Michigan State, which is hard to beat head-to-head in state.
No, I can assure you, if I was coach, I would have put every bit of my efforts into Trey McKinney and try to get him to go to Michigan. But you have to keep it in perspective too, because you have to know you got a great chance of getting him in order to dive in there. Because if not, you go to long road with him and he tells you no, you are really in trouble, because all the 4 stars are gone, the best 3 stars are gone, and you're in trouble. So I think they felt really good about that one and went and got him, and I would have done the same thing. I mean, it's like Mitch McGarry. I mean, we were in there with Mitch McGarry. I can't believe he wasn't a McDonald's All-American because he was so good. But he really gave us vibes like this could really happen. And so we stuck in there with him. But a lot of them, the really great players, when they started telling me I was in their top 10, I generally would think, okay, well, now you got 9 schools, because the odds are too bad, and you lose all the good 3 and 4 year players if you're concentrated all the time on the 5-star guys.
I mean, that's proven to be the case seemingly program after program. And even, I mean, we see teams in the Big Ten this year, right? You're bringing in a couple 5 stars, talking about Rutgers. There's no guarantee that it's going to work out right away. But I mean, as far as like, let's say bring it back to Michigan, and not everybody's going to be a 4 or 5-star recruit, but that doesn't mean that once they get to year 2 and 3, or let's say 5 in the case of Vlad Golden, that they're not going to be a real problem. So just your thoughts on like Michigan's 7-foot duo.
Tony, look at this team right now. Danny Wolv has to go to Northfield Mount Herman for another year. Then he's unrecruited. He goes to Yale, right? Vlad Goldman couldn't get on the court at Texas Tech. He was not a 5-star recruit of any way. He couldn't get on the court. And even at Florida Atlantic, he started most of the time, but he wasn't getting 5 or 6 points a game. There's just, yes, they're a 5-star when they're 16. It doesn't mean they're going to be a 5-star when they're 21. They could have been shaving when they're in 8th grade, and that's why they're a 5-star. I mean, it is such a poor way of rating people. If you've ever had children and watched them from the age of 16 to 21, oh my God, there's such a change. So it's basically a crapshoot of people rating people and putting on the McDonald's, and just look back at the McDonald's All-Americans. And yes, there's a lot of success there having college careers, but there's just as many busts out there too. And that's where we get into the NIL. You're going to give NIL to 5-star incoming freshmen. Oh my goodness, what a chance you're taking there that could be a bust.
So I guess, did you look at recruiting rankings? I mean, how did John Beilein find his stars? How'd you find Trey Burke? How'd you find Nick Stauskas? Right? I mean, how did you know that they were the guys?
Oh, my connections with, when you're in that business when I got those guys, I'd been a head coach for 40 years. And I'm telling you, it could have been a guy when I was a junior college coach that I recruited his dad that would tell me about a player. There's so many ways. I know Nick Stauskas we had recruited somebody off of St. Mark's, and it was the coach's son, and he went to Georgetown, and he remembered how classy we were the whole time. So he called me about Nick and said, "Hey, I know you didn't get my son, but I got another one for you." And we went after Nick. So it's sometimes right, but your relationships that you build over time is how you get the good players. Trey Burke had a great relationship with all Ohio Red, and just sort of happened to see him on the last day. Mo Wagner, I had a kid from Germany at Michigan, and through the grapevine, hey, this Johannes Herber had a great career at West Virginia, and so then when I heard about Mo, there I was on the next flight to Berlin. So you just make inroads here and there, and it all pays off. To be in position, as Bobby Knight, be in position to be in position. And we tried to always do that. Not close any doors, leave as many open, but then there's a time you got to say, okay, these are the guys that want Michigan. Those are the ones that are getting the scholarship offers. And remember, Tony, we didn't offer a lot of scholarships. Very rarely would we get them. We had to be sure he really liked Michigan before we offered him.
Right. Man, I could even go down that road further, just about just how many different ways it would have to now be navigated. I wonder if maybe part of you is just as happy that the timing worked out the way it did with your retirement, the way the game ended up going these last couple of years.
Tony, I was on the driving range today, just trying to become a better golfer, and believe me, it's a better spot than some college basketball programs right now. I know that.
I hear you. All right, I just got a few more for you. So my same Michigan buddies who were texting me about the imminent Final Four when Michigan was number 14 in the country are all now saying they're definitely going to lose to Rutgers this weekend. Now, I don't subscribe to that, but just that's the nature of fans and really the Big Ten. So can you just speak to sort of navigating the conference, the depth, and the importance of not getting too high and not getting too low, which is really what Dusty was reiterating after that Penn State game.
You know what? Working for the Pistons for 2 years, I made that drive from Ann Arbor to Detroit, almost probably 200 times. And I listened to talk radio for the first time, really listened to it. And I see all the ups and downs of our fans that can sometimes creep into the network of your team. And it's getting the team there. I mean, you look at some of our best teams got beat in the Final Four teams. One won the Big Ten tournament and went to the Final Four in New York. The other one lost badly to a sixth round and went to the Final Four. We had to have lucky shots to get there. I mean, not lucky, but the good teams will be a way to be in position, but still they got to have luck to get there, and that includes all these teams in the Big Ten. There's a few that are really, really good, and there's some other ones that can beat anybody in the country. And people probably don't believe that.
And we're about to get to them on the next question. But what sort of goals or expectations should Michigan have, or could they have, the rest of this season?
Oh, I think they have a roster right now. You have to do it in order. Okay, let's try and get this Big Ten championship, the regular season. We're only 2 games behind Michigan State. Michigan State, look at their schedule. They have played some good teams, especially non-conference. But now they go into a schedule where maybe I was estimating 8 of the 10 games left for them are tournament teams. So we're going to see where Michigan State is. So that's the first thing. You got to go after the regular season championship. Then if you don't get it or you get it, you refocus. Let's go after the tournament championship. And then after that, all right, if we play well enough down the stretch, we're in the Big Ten or in the NCAA tournament, then go after that. But you can't be saying, hey, we're going after the Final Four right now. Just win the next game, and that will allow you to be in position to be in a conference championship, a regular season conference championship, which means a great deal in the Big Ten.
Oh, yeah. And Dusty being a Bob Knight guy, he's talked about it. He said he knows the importance and just sort of the staying power and what it means to win a regular season title in this league. And you mentioned some of them. So Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois, I think all among the top of the league. I guess just what are your thoughts about the job your buddy Tom Izzo's doing up in East Lansing?
Oh, no, it's terrific. He's got his type of team right there. I don't remember the year when they had Jackson and Mikal Bridges, they had so much talent. And that's so hard sometimes that you got two lottery picks on the team, and there's a lot of distractions that can be there. I'm not saying those kids didn't play hard and play smart and do their best, but there's natural distractions. He's got guys on that team that just want to win. It reminds me of our 18 team. We didn't know how talented we were at that time because you still got Jordan Poole and Mo Wagner in the NBA doing really well. But he's got a team right now. I don't know, Trey. There's some guys that probably will play afterwards, and I'm sure that they have that chance. And Richardson certainly is a great prospect to play in the NBA. But they also got just a bunch of junkyard dogs too. And I'm going to be there for the February 21 game. That's going to be madness at Chrysler. I can't wait to see when those teams match up for the first time.
Oh yeah, it is. No, I mean, we've been talking about it. It's been a little too long around here, frankly, that both teams were. I mean, I have to imagine, were some of your favorite games at Michigan those top 10 matchups with Michigan State? What are those games like?
Yeah, if we won, they were my favorite.
Right.
That's for sure. And yeah, I mean, the ones that we won up there too were really, really special because it was so hard to do. to go win it. I think we won up there 3 times maybe, and it's really, really hard. But yeah, those are great, great wins, and they were all, with the exception of a few, they were always decided in the last minutes and last seconds. And no, that's going to be it'll be a great atmosphere in both places. I contend, Tony, I said this so many times, so much because of Dickie V, et cetera, has made, North Carolina and Duke this huge matchup every year, last game of the season. It's not a better atmosphere than Michigan and Michigan State in the same state, same league. We're 1 and 2, and I think Michigan and Michigan State is number 1 in just this type of intensity and atmosphere that you see. That I'm sure it's there at North Carolina and Duke, but not like this one. I don't think it is. This is 2 state schools that are just. It's great to see them both when they're top 10 teams, like it was back in the during the last few years of my coaching career.
That's right. So if you had to, who wins the Big Ten? I don't know if you're allowed to pick. Is there someone who you have a give an edge to?
No, I'm not kidding. I think it's going to be somebody's got to make some plays and shots. Don't forget Maryland. Maryland's got one of the most talented starting 5s in the league. They don't have. The other night they had 5 guys. It's the opposite of Michigan State. They had 5 guys go over 35 minutes. Maryland, don't discount them yet of just making a run here in some way because they've had a tough schedule. I don't think I can make that call yet because I want to see what Michigan State does at Michigan, at Purdue, at places like that, where it's a whole, and they got to go out to UCLA and USC this weekend. So let's see what they do there, and that could probably give you they go out there and win those 2. I think they're in a really good chance to win another regular season championship.
Been a little while for them up there, but a lot of ball left to play. And fortunately, here in Ann Arbor, it's been a fun season, and we expect it to continue to be. John, I will let you go, but thanks so much for coming on for the first time. And you're always gracious with your time. We hope to have you on again sometime in the future, and I'll find you in February.
Let's do it again. All right, Tony. Thank you.
All right, sir. Have a good one. Take care. John Beilein, Hall of Famer. See ya. All right. Once again, thank you to John Beilein for joining us from the road to make that phone call work. I got to give him a shout out. I mean, he really navigated some technical things. We were trying to work on it on our back end, and it wasn't that much, but for not being a millennial, let's say, I mean, he really worked it out. So John's the man, and a lot of great thoughts on this year's Michigan basketball team. He is certainly not giving up, in case you can't tell, just because they hit a little bit of a rough patch these past 4 games. But that'll do it for this episode. Just a quick reminder, Michigan is back in action next on Saturday. 3:30 from what we all love to call the Rack, but it is actually now Jersey Mike's Arena. That is Rutgers University in Piscataway, New Jersey. A big one, another big one for Michigan against a couple of 5-star freshmen, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. That will be probably one of those ones that they talk about. You want to protect home court. Michigan's done a great job of that at 10-0, but you got to steal some on the road. Michigan is just 5-5 away from Chrysler Center this year, actually. So they gotta keep stealing some, and that would be a good spot for it. As always, you can find all the coverage of Michigan sports right here on Freep.com and all of the local Detroit sports teams, which even though the Lions had an early exit, Pistons are cooking a little bit. We didn't get to that with John, maybe next time, but the Wings, red hot, won again. So a lot of good stuff. And our team's got all the coverage locked and loaded. So thanks to everybody who makes that happen. That starts at the top with our editor-in-chief, Nicole Avery-Nichols. It goes to our sports editor, Bill Bradley, our superstar audio engineer, Robin Chan, who really is the one who made this thing work. I gave John Beilein the credit for this. The amount of tests and StreamYards and Teams we were doing to make sure that a phone call could work through the normal internet, it's above my pay grade. That's why we have Robin. So thanks to Robin. Thanks to Andrew, who you didn't hear from as much as we all like to normally on this episode, but I assure you he was instrumental as well. So for the team, I'm Tony. We'll talk to you next time. This is Hail Yes.